So, can we please talk about UFC Vegas 59? I'm going to be recapping the event, just some highlights that jumped out for me, really. Also, see how my bets went. Pretty terrible. Actually, one of them wasn't terrible. There was a certain bet that I put on by absolute savagery from last week, which really came to fruition. It was a good one. And yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be taking a look at MMA news, see what's been going on. So if all that sounds good, stay with me for the Burt Locker episode 129, I think it is. So, UFC Vegas 59 was a pretty good event, actually. You had Brian Battle, who was he was on one of the last Ultimate Fighter seasons that I actually watched. I forget who the fucking coaches were. I remember I watched it because the coaches were pretty funny, but I can't. Volkanovski and Ortega. That was it. Yeah, it was a pretty fun series. Anyway, Brian Battle won the middleweight division of that. He used to fight a heavyweight at one point. He's got one of the worst nicknames in the UFC. Pooh Bear? Come on, man. That's almost as bad as what's another bad nickname? Hendo? I never understood Hendo. Dan Hendo Henderson? That doesn't make any sense, Dan. Just I don't know. Maybe there's a story behind it. Maybe you can enlighten me in the comments. Like Dan Henderson would waste his time watching my idiot fucking show. Anyway. Well, we'll say Brian Battle is potentially a problem at 170 pounds because he's gone all the way from heavyweight. He now fights at 170 because he decided, look, he can cut the weight, and he looked really good at 170 as well. His frame looked better, and he just looked like more in shape. And I'll tell you what, if you want to see a really picture perfect head kick, go back and watch that fight because it was picture perfect. No, he went low a few times and then went high. It was very similar to a Donald Cerrone head kick in that he threw the rear hand, but it's almost a distraction. So he throws the hand and it's almost attached to his leg with a string. His hand came up with the leg. You go to parry away the punch. Oh no, there's a shin. Smack. Out. Just Dunsky. It was good. It was a really good kick. Go back and watch that one. Brian Battle at UFC Vegas 59. Smiling Sam Alvey. Man, it's a shame. It is a shame. Look, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of Smiling Sam Alvey. He always brings it. The reason he's still in the UFC is because he always brings it. He fights at short notice. He fights literally anybody. He's that old school kind of fighter, and I absolutely love that. He's the last of a dying breed. He really is. And it's going to be a sad day when he really does hang it up. See, he's made no mention of hanging it up. They haven't said that they're not renewing his contract. They might, because he's a reliable guy. He'll put on a good fight, but it didn't look good when he got his jaw broken. It made me feel a bit sad. I shouldn't feel sad when I'm watching fighters, and it's starting to get to that point, isn't it, where it's like, do I want to see this guy do it again? I mean, I do. I felt, because you saw Sam Alvey, he came out on Instagram, didn't he? And he was just like, I swear I used to be good once. It's like, you were, Sam. You bloody were, mate. And you know what? You've got nothing to be ashamed of. You got into the UFC. You fought in the UFC for God knows how many years. You've reached a very small percentage of fighters will get to the level that you got to. So hats off to you, truly. And if it is your last one in the UFC, thanks for all the brilliant fights. It's a shame it didn't go your way. I was really rooting for you, but that's not taking anything away from his opponent. It was a wonderful knockout from Oleksiejczuk. It was, really, really good. He's definitely one to keep an eye on. That left, was it a left that he caught him with? I think it was a left. Either way, it was a big looping kind of woof punch, and it was like, as soon as it landed, you were like, woof, oh dear. So yeah, there you got Terence McKinney, who's a friend of Yo MMA Rap. He was very impressive. He was the biggest favourite on the card, though, so I wasn't interested in betting on that. I just wasn't interested. His knees in the clinch just looked really nasty, and when he switched to the ground, he got the standing rear naked choke in the end. It was very good. Very good performance. Look forward to seeing more of him. And I've just decided that shaved-head Sergey Spivak is basically blonde Brunson, in that he's changed his haircut and now he looks fucking unbeatable, because he he looked so good against Sakai, or was it Sakai looked bad? Sakai hasn't looked good in a minute, to be fair. I don't know where he's going to... I think he's got Bellator written all over him, to be frank. Yeah. But Spivak, hell yeah, keep going, mate. Fucking big fan of the polar bear from Moldova. You keep going, son. Mohammed Usman was the bet that came off for me pretty big because it was a 5-1 shot. Mohammed Usman by savagery. And he caught him with this like left hook coming in. And the sound it made was just disgusting. It was brilliant. It was really good. Just absolutely put the dude out cold. And he's actually Kamaru Usman's brother. This is how little attention I've been paying to the Ultimate Fighter season this year. I didn't know that was Kamaru Usman's brother. I thought that shit was a coincidence. So now we've basically got a 265-pound Kamaru Usman. Oh no, that's a problem. That is a problem. And he looks scary as shit as well. I stand by my comments. All those tattoos and that, he just looks like they found him in like a really high security prison somewhere. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, and that left hand, that came out of somewhere horrible. Don't you? That was nice, real nice. And he was really nice in the interviews as well. I'm sure he's an absolutely lovely guy because he seemed like it. Jeff Neal clearly benefited from that layoff because he beat the fuck out of Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque didn't really have anything for him until it got into kicking range. I don't know why Vicente didn't keep it in kicking range because that was where he was having success. He kept it in kicking range for a bit, had some success, and then went back into boxing range and got his head knocked off. Good one, Vicente. Fucking solid strategy there, mate. Top notch. But no, Jeff Neal looked class though. I will say that. Jeff Neal did look absolutely class. And Thiago Santos, well, he gave it his all, didn't he? You know what? He gave Hill more of a fight than I thought that he would. But the end result was exactly as I thought. Jamal Hill, he hits differently, man. Like when he starts landing on you, you are in real trouble. And we're going to see more and more of that. He's called for the title shot. I think next we should probably more realistically see him against maybe Dominic Reyes, who's taken a bit of time off to recuperate. That'd be another big scalp for him. I think he'd beat Dominic Reyes, to be fair. It depends what kind of shape Dominic Reyes comes back in, I suppose. Anyway, that was the event. It was a good event. UFC Vegas 59 was a goddamn good event, and I bloody enjoyed it. So before I get into the news, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. If you could do me a favour, please, leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, all of that good shit. Just do all that good shit for me, please. It really does. It makes a huge difference, and I appreciate all of you. Also, don't forget, I've got the Patreon. You get extra fucking fight picks over on the Patreon. So it's well worth every penny of that £1 per month. That's all I ask. Just helps to support the show. It just helps me out a lot. Helps me try and take the show to the next level. So let's get on with the news. Nick Diaz was apparently forced to fight Robbie Lawler, according to Caesar Gracie. Fuck off, Caesar. Fuck, just, I hate it when they come out with this kind of shit. Honestly, it's like, look, apparently because Nick had 75 grand's worth of debt and, he needed the money, like the UFC forced him to fight. That is not correct. I'm sorry, but don't start throwing those kind of, like, okay, how the fuck has he got 75 grand's worth of debt for a start? Do you know what I mean? Like, not being funny, but like Nick Diaz can probably do a nightclub up here. He can probably sit in a nightclub drinking and make fucking $5,000 or $10,000, right? So how the fuck do you end up with fucking 75 grand's worth of debt when literally your name alone can make you money? Like, that's literally how he can make money. Like, he can lend his name to a weed brand, to an athletic company, anything, right? He's got more than enough ways of making money. The UFC didn't force him to fight. They try and paint this picture like the UFC held a fucking gun to his head and said, oh, you better fight, and that he had no options because he's 75 grand in the hole. Well, I've got one idea. Like, if you're 75 grand in the hole after all the money that Nick Diaz has made, number one, maybe should have managed your money a little better. Number two, right, basically you took the quickest option to make that money, right? Because the UFC, all the UFC did was offer you a fight. And they didn't force you to take that fight. They offered you that fight. If you were really not capable of fighting and like you really didn't want to fight, here's an idea. You could get a job. You could do all kinds of crazy shit that regular folk have to do. Do you know what I mean? Like none of these people are above, like, where, like, anyone else is. Like, at the end of the day, Nick Diaz has made a fuck ton of money. If he's 75 grand in the hole after all the money he's made, that is not on the UFC. That is on fucking Nick Diaz's money management. I'm sorry to say it. I'm a huge fan of Nick Diaz, and I don't think these numbers are even correct anyway. It's all fucking bullshit to try and make the UFC look like these monsters that are trying to force people to fight when they don't want to fight. Bullshit! All those fighters want to fight. They want the fucking glory, they want the lifestyle, they want the opportunity to try and make millions of dollars. There are a lot of upsides to the UFC's marketing machine. So stop pretending like there isn't any. Fuck you. Sorry, I feel really strongly about that, it turns out. But silver lining is, apparently, look, he apparently had 2 slip discs as well, which, looking at the shape he was in, I could believe that. I don't like it when they throw these things up after the fact and say, well, I had to slip disc. But he's not saying that. Cesar Grace is saying it. Anyway. But silver lining, if he gets those fixed, then, that'll be on the UFC's dime as well. That's another thing that people don't talk about, isn't it? Like, they will pay your medical bills if, like, injuries are sustained in the octagon. It doesn't sound like these were, though, but I guarantee that the UFC probably did pay it. Do you know what I mean? They probably hooked him up with a decent surgeon, and if he's had those fixed, maybe he comes back looking better than he did against Robbie Lawler, because he didn't look terrible against Robbie Lawler. It was an okay fight. It was an okay fight. Look, bottom line is, I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan, but I'm not a fan of this bullshit where people just try and make the UFC out to be these fucking monsters that are forcing people to fight when they don't want to fight. That's not the case. It's not the fucking Colosseum, guys. They're not, like, taking people against their will and forcing them to fight to the death. They're giving them opportunities to make fucking bucket loads of cash whilst doing something they fucking love for a living. What monsters. I know. Fuck. And how dare they turn a profit while doing so? I know. How dare they turn a profit? Fuck off with all that. Jesus Christ. Anyway. The only other news is that Khamzat Chimaev promised a coffin for Nate Diaz. Honestly, I don't know why so many people are writing Nate Diaz off in this one. I think actually this might be a worse matchup for Khamzat than people are thinking. People think he's going to steamroll Nate Diaz, but people thought he was going to steamroll fucking Gilbert Burns, but that didn't happen, did it? And I don't think I'm crazy when I say I think that Nate Diaz's boxing is probably slightly better than Gilbert Burns's. I don't think I'm crazy in thinking that. And I do think that Nate Diaz normally welcomes people taking him to the ground because he loves submitting people off his back. So I don't see a problem there either. Look, I'm not saying that Khamzat couldn't come in there and just batter him and look really great. That could happen, but we don't know yet. Nate Diaz is a big boy. He can fucking look after himself, right? Stop crying for Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz isn't scared of Khamzat Chimaev, and that's another thing that's interesting for this fight, because Nate Diaz is not going to go in there intimidated. Like, a lot of people lose to Khamzat Chimaev before they've even entered the octagon, because they've already said in their head, this guy's an absolute beast. They've already seen the hype train and they're ready to just jump in front of it and get mowed over. Nate Diaz is not fucking lying down for anybody. He's going to make that thing a fight. And you know what? I'm looking forward to it. Nate Diaz asked for a fight. He's being given a fight against a top contender. If he beats Khamzat Chimaev, then he can make a legitimate claim for a title shot, rather than the bizarre, batshit crazy title claims that he starts making off the backs of losses to Leon Edwards. Come on, man. This is a fucking good fight. There's a lot of upside for Nick Diaz in this fight. Nate Diaz, sorry, I keep saying Nick Diaz. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go to Troll of the Week. Now, I've only got one Troll of the Week, and it does relate to Sam Alvey, unfortunately. But it's quite a nice one, because I think it's actually already happened. I'm fairly sure that I've already seen Sam Alvey calling for a boxing match with Jake Paul. And why wouldn't he? Because you've got Jake Paul standing behind the tree, just waiting for the UFC to release Sam Alvey. You know what? I hope that Sam Alvey gets that fight. I hope he makes a fuck ton of money. I don't know how he'll fare against Jake Paul. I think Jake Paul's better than people give him credit for. But you know what? Sam Alvey's got heavy hands and he's got a good chin, so he would have as good a chance as anybody, in my opinion. But that is all I have time for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be looking at the fights for this week. Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz is the main event. That's very, very interesting, and there's a couple of other interesting fights on there as well, including Bruno Silva, who I'm a big fan of, taking on Gerald Meerschaert. So anyway, until Friday, keep those odds on and those bets terrible.